Welcome to our online summer seminar. My name is Rachel Kiwendi, and I graduated from Pensacola Christian College with a bachelor's degree in early childhood education, as well as a master's degree in educational leadership. I've had the privilege of teaching here at Pensacola Christian Academy for 9.5 years in K-5. I'm still learning daily on best things to do in the classroom and ways to work with children, so I hope that as I impart this information to you today that it will be helpful to you in this coming school year. Today we're going to talk about being rooted in reading. One of the blessings that I get to enjoy, and I know many of you do as well, is using the Abeka curriculum. When we use the Abeka curriculum, one of the things we want to make sure we are doing is that we employ the curriculum. We utilize all the aspects of it. It helps us as we establish those strong academics in the classrooms. We get to enjoy many of the extra fun things that the curriculum has to offer. Let's go ahead and start talking about the goal of teaching reading. When we teach reading, we want to teach it so that we can teach the students to understand and appreciate reading so that one day they can read the Bible for themselves. We want them to enjoy those fun books, the enjoyable chapter books as they get older, the picture books as they're younger. But ultimately, the goal of teaching reading is that one day they would be able to read the Bible for themselves so that they can come to that knowledge of Christ on their own. When we have reading circles, let's go through a few of the purposes of a reading circle. It gives reading practice that was introduced and taught in phonics class. So the academics that you're teaching in that phonics lesson, you are then going to take those later on in the school year and bring them into that reading circle and fine-tune each of those aspects of the phonics lesson. It also gives the students individual reading time. When you're in that group phonics class, you're teaching the whole. Then, yes, you're doing the small individuals, you're giving them that individual time, but when they need to practice those reading skills and to improve on that, they need that individual one-on-one practice time, which that reading circle time does give them. They also get to read on level with their peers. So you will take them and place them into groups, which we're going to talk about in a moment. And then they are in a group with children on their same level. So it makes them want to read. It makes them push themselves to get to the little bit higher level that a friend might be at. But it also keeps them feeling comfortable because they know my friends are reading on my level and I can do it too. It gives them that individual attention. You're able to help each one of those students with the specific needs that they have during that reading circle time. It also builds their confidence. When they get that time with you in reading circle, they know I can do it. If they're struggling, maybe in the classroom, and you have them reading a sentence for the class in a phonics class, they might get a little bit nervous because they're reading for the entire class or reading a word or anything like that. But when you're in that individual reading group, they know these are my friends, they're reading just like me, and then when they finally hit that level that they've been working so hard to achieve with smoothness, with accuracy, with expression, they realize, I just did it and I can do it. And it makes them excited to want to be able to do more. So that is one of the other big reasons that I love reading circles, because that confidence that it instills in the children. When you read at the nursery level, you are not actually going to have the children reading. So we're going to talk about nursery level, we're going to talk about K4 a little bit, and then K5. So at this nursery level, the children are not actually going to read books. The children are not accurately forming words and sounds yet. So we don't want to teach them certain aspects of reading because they cannot accurately form those words and sounds. So instead, they listen to the teacher read. So you on that nursery level will be their introduction to reading. They look at books for fun time. So you will give them those books, let them sit there, look at the pictures, and even make stories of their own related to the pictures that they see. It gets them that opportunity to give expression, to give storytelling when they're not actually reading, but they're starting to have a love for books, which is going to help them later on when they do actually get to read those books. Now, for the K4 and K5 reading circle preparation, what do? You may say, how do I prepare for these circles? Well, you're going to want to look at the curriculum, the Abeka curriculum front matter, and it will give you guidelines on how to properly prepare for that first day of reading circle. You want to read the book ahead of time. Don't just take it and say, well, when I sit down in reading circle, I'll be ready to go. You may be on certain days, but there may be days when you may just not be ready for it, and then it's not going to be as exciting for the children. It's not going to have the smoothness that you need in that circle because you were not properly prepared for that reading lesson. So read the book ahead of time. Know those stories. Know what you're going to do before you sit down in that circle with the children. Have a book for each child. They should have their own individual book. It just helps them stay focused. It helps them work harder, and it also gives them that time to take their book home for homework later on in K5, as well as when they get to finish that book, they each individually get to keep that book on their own and have it at home so they can reread those stories with mommies and daddies and friends and relatives at home. Have a circle basket, something that you can keep things in at your reading circle. So wherever your reading circle location is, have a basket of some sort. That way you can keep your teacher edition, any extra books, having extra books for the children. For instance, if they forget it at home one day and they didn't bring it back to school, that way they can still participate in reading circle. So having some extra books there, having the motivational ideas in that basket, it keeps it handy for you. And then if you need to move a reading location one time, you can take that basket with you and have that information handy. Look ahead to what you're doing. Prepare. So have the lessons planned out. Don't just look at the curriculum the day of and say, okay, this is what I'm teaching. Yes, I read the book ahead of time, but now this is what I'm doing on this day. Plan it out so that you are fully prepared. Then you are going to want to decide on 3 group names. So you're going to have that higher group, the middle group, and the lower group. So you want to decide on those names. Now, you want to make sure the names do not portray anything specific about that particular reading group. So for instance, the lowest group, we wouldn't really want to name them the turtles because we wouldn't want them to feel like they are slower. We want the names to be generic names, and if you want to use the name turtle, use it for the higher group. They won't think anything of it and it will be just fine. So the reading circle names that you'll notice in the clips you'll see in a little bit for this year for me have been elephants, lions, and zebras. So they're just animal names. You can choose candy names. You can choose any type of name you want. So think through what 3 names you would want to utilize and decide on that. Then you're going to take each child and place them in that individual group that they need to go in based on their reading level. So let's talk about that placement into the reading circle groups. For K4, it's going to be a little bit different than K5. So if you're a K4 teacher, group 1 might be around 7 students depending on the size of your class, and they would know their letters and sounds as well as be able to sound out blends and read blends. So that's the level that you're looking at for group 1 for K4. Group 2, depending on the size again, might have around 8-ish students at most. They know their vowels and their consonant sounds, but they may struggle sounding out those blends, but they know the individual sounds. Those students would go in the group 2 for K4. For group 3, it is the smallest amount of students because they need that more independent one-on-one time than any other group might utilize. So you will need to reteach their vowels to these students and reteach their consonants to them. They need that extra one-on-one help consistently daily. These are the students that you would have in group 3 for K4. For K5, It is a little bit different because they have progressed a little bit more. Now, you may have students that have just come into K5. Maybe they didn't attend K4 at your school, and that's okay. They may still be on a higher reading level, or they may need to be at the lower level. Group 1 would be around 8 to 10 students, depending on the size of your class. And for Group 1, when you start out reading circles, they can read words without sounding them out. So as you're placing them into these groups, think, can this child read a word without having to sound it out? If they can, place them in that Group 1 because they're going to be able to progress quickly. Group 2 is around 7 to 14 students. They can read their blends well, but they may need to sound out words. So if they got the blend, they're confident on that, but when they add in a word and add that final consonant, they might struggle a little bit. That would be a Group 2 student. Group 3, again, just like with K4, it's going to be your smallest group. So they're going to be around 5 to 6 students because you need to spend that one-on-one time with them individually more often. They need to sound out both blends and words, and they may still struggle with their consonant sounds and their vowel sounds. And that's okay. You're going to help them with that in this circle time. So that would be Group 3. So when you're preparing for the first day of reading circles, introduce the concept of the circle to the students. So let them know, we've been having our phonics class. You've gotten to read words in phonics class, you've read sentences for me, and now we get to do something special. We get to have a smaller group time where we have what we call reading circles. Make them excited about it, get them interested in it. Have them want to do this fun thing with you. So teach them what it's going to be. Teach them what group they will be in. So you're already going to have it planned out before this first day of circles or even the first day of practice circles. You're going to have everything planned out of where they are going to be. And the curriculum does give you a time in a phonics lesson to do that in K5. So as you're working with them in the mornings or throughout the day, plan that out and have it ready ahead of time so that when you're ready for this first day of reading circle, you can tell them where they will be. They will either be, for me, an elephant, a zebra, or a lion, and tell them this is the animal you will be. Then place the chairs and have them prepared. Maybe you're able to place them in a semicircle somewhere around the classroom and have a solid reading circle location. In a clips you're going to see in a little bit, you will notice that this year at Pensacola Christian Academy, we were able to take the children and we had to move them and make a circle each reading time. So you will get to see that in our clips, but maybe you'll have a reading location. Whatever you have, if you're able to have the chairs there, if you have to have the children bring their chairs, if they sit on the floor on a pillow, or they just sit crisscross applesauce, however it works in your classroom, have a reading location and be prepared with that. Then you'll want to prepare for that seat work time. You'll notice in a clip that you'll see in just a moment how to give seat work explanation. You will want to have the papers prepared. You'll want to have, if you're showing it on a PowerPoint like you'll see in this clip, you'll want to have that prepared. If you have the papers on your board, however you are showing them what they need to do for seat work, prepare for that. Have a plan for seat work. Because while you're in reading circles, the other children are in their seat work time. They are staying busy. They are working. So they need to know what is expected, what they need to do, and how they need to stay busy so that you can focus on those that are in reading circle. Training their habits for that reading circle time. One thing that they really need to focus on doing is holding their book up. Don't let them keep it down on their lap. If they're keeping it down on their lap, they can't see it properly. They're not as focused. So train them on holding their book up so that they can see it. train them on how to properly turn their pages. Turning pages can be a tricky concept, especially with that blended word book that we have in the Abeka curriculum. That's a thicker book. So it's more difficult to find where they're at and to turn where they need to be. So spend the time at the first few reading circles training them how to properly turn their pages. So you might want to have them fold their book back. In our classroom, we fold the book back so they're only looking at one page at a time. Then when I tell them turn your page, they know to take one page, flip it over, fold it back, and be ready to go. You want to have them pick on that upper corner like we mentioned and fold it back. Then once they are holding that book, they should have two hands on that book so that they are focused and their eyes stay on the book. Now, you have different things you can train them. So you can tell them if you want them to have their eyes on you for a question, rest your books. If you want them to have their eyes on their book because it's active reading time, reading positions. You can choose your own words of what you want them to say. You can make it a fun word. You can tell them just the simple reading position or rest your book, but have something to where they know it's a quick, easy thing so it doesn't take extra time from that active reading time for them to know what to do with their books. But the majority of the time in that reading circle, their books should be up at that reading position and their eyes on their book, ready to go. Entering and exiting the circle. Train them on how you want them to do this. In a moment, you're going to see a clip of my classroom of the children coming to reading circles this school year. Now, in our classroom, again, I mentioned prior that we had them bring their chairs to circle this year. I had a small spot on the carpet where they knew that's where the leg of their chair goes. And some of them still struggled to get there, but we helped them through it. They got where they needed to be, and they sat down in their seat. And then when we were finished, they took their chairs back. If you have a designated reading location that has specific chairs in it, you can train them on how to come. So maybe they would line up. The first person might say, may we enter our circle? And then when it's time to leave, that person might say, may we exit? May we leave? So train them on how you want them to come and how you want them to leave so that it's done orderly. Let's go ahead and look at that clip of the children entering our circle time. Elephants come to circle. Okay, get busy. Oliver's being careful of where he put his chair. Good job. Great job, Adam. All the way over. Just scoot it over a little bit more, Brantley. That way Lily has space to come in. Sit right next to Oliver. Oliver, stand up for just a minute. There you go. Right next to him. Right over here, Brantley. Switch close. Right there. Right here on this side. There you go. Lily over and Chloe. Right next to Lily. Now that you've seen them enter, they would exit in that same way. So they would bring their chairs as they came. They would take their chairs with them as they leave. And their book, as they're carrying their chairs, if they're bringing their own, just sits on their little chair so that it doesn't get messed up. It doesn't get dropped. It's right there ready to go. So have that plan of how you want them to come and go from reading circles. Then you want to have seat work habits. You want them to know what you expect while you are in that reading circle. What do the other children do? They should be actively working on their seat work. They should be carefully working on it. They shouldn't be talking. They shouldn't be asking questions throughout your reading circle time. You can train them. If you have a question, when I get up and walk around checking seat work in between reading circles, that's when I can come out and answer your question. Train them. If you don't know what you're doing on this section, skip it. Move on to the next one, and then come back to it. Now, earlier you noticed in the clip of the seat work explanation where we talked about how we did all of our pencil work first. In our classroom this year, my class loved to work diligently and get that pencil work done and then have the fun towards the end. If it's helpful for your classroom to do a little pencil work, do a little color work, and then do a little pencil work to motivate them to want to keep going with that seat work instead of getting discouraged or wanting to just sit there and feel like it's overwhelming and too much, then that's perfectly fine. Do it however best fits your children and your classroom. Training their reading. We want to train good, careful readers. So a way to do that is making sure the students stay with the teacher. So keeping their eyes on their book. We mentioned that a minute ago. It is very, very important that the students keep their eyes on the teacher and on the book, staying with you. Reading with expression and smooth phrases. So in the clips that you're going to see in a moment, you'll get to hear the different levels of reading, different areas that the children are working on those smooth phrases, working on that expression. We don't want them to sound staccato and every word individual. We want it to be smooth. I use a lot of hand motions as I'm working with the children in my classroom. So when I tell them to smooth, I kind of make it smooth. I let them hear me and then mimic me. Now, I don't want them repeating me. So when they mimic me, I make sure they know. Don't look at me while you're saying it. Eyes on your book, reading that sentence. That way you can do it on your own. Don't let them memorize the sentence and simply mimic what you're saying, but have them mimic the expression, have them mimic the smoothness that you have. And you'll get to see some of that. Read in a soft talking voice. The reason we do that is because one, anyone that yells and reads, it doesn't sound pleasant. But two, the other children are in the classroom. They are working on their seat work. And when they need to be diligently working, they need to be able to focus. And if the children in reading circle are reading at such a loud level, the children in their seats are going to want to be interested in what story they're reading or what's going on over in that reading circle. So you want them to read so where the children in the circle can hear them, you personally can hear them, and then that allows the children in seat work time to stay focused and stay busy with what they're doing. Make sure they're not using their fingers to follow along on that book. That will slow them down. If they're using their fingers to follow along, they're going to be slower at reading because they're looking at each individual word. Train them to use their eyes to focus on what they're reading and where we are in that book. And don't let them use their lips. Many of them they say, oh, I'm going to read it in my brain, but then they use their lips to sound it out. Now, with the lower level students, so group 3, there are times I make an exception to that because I need to know what's going on in their little brain. And even the other groups, if they are really struggling with a word or a part of the sentence, I need to know what's going on. So I will tell them, let me see your lips, let me hear you sounding it out, and make them sound it out loud so that you can analyze with them where they're going wrong and help them fix that. But as a general rule, don't have them use their lips to sound it out because that will, again, slow them down. If they can read it fully in their brain, then they're going to be able to become quicker, faster readers. So really push them to read those words inside their brain. Then call on individuals first. So you want that individual reading time. That's the whole purpose of reading circles is that individual time. So call on the individual. But then there might be times when you can call on the group to read. There's times at the end of a sentence or end of a story, I'll have the group read one of the exciting sentences that ends the story. And we'll read it together as a group with expression. That's helpful, especially for the lower groups, because they hear their friend's expression, they hear your expression, and they can mimic that. And especially with group 3, some of them are really going to struggle with reading sentences, especially early on, but even later on in the semester. You'll get to see a group 3 reading in a few moments, and you'll get to know and see how they struggle reading a full sentence sometimes. And that's okay. Help them with that. That's why you're in that reading circle time. Let them hear how you say it. Reading it as a group can be beneficial. You saying it and having them mimic you, and or you reading it along with them, you and that student become that group. Reading it can help them be more successful at reading that sentence. And it gives them, again, that confidence that I can do it. And they won't want to give up on it if it seems too hard. Reward and motivate. In the clips, you might get to see where they have benefits. They earn a motivation. They might earn a happy note in the clips you're going to see. That's what they get in those clips. And then I've also done bookmarks that some of them smell, stickers on their books if they know where you're at in reading circle. Sometimes they tend to get distracted or they want to read ahead. They get so excited about the story, they want to keep going. So if they know when you call their name where you are and they are able to pick up reading right away, put a sticker right by that sentence and tell them, Mommy and Daddy are going to see that when you get home, and they're going to know that you did your best. Or if they worked hard in general on that page during reading circle, put a sticker up at the top corner of their book. Use some sort of motivation. If you're able to use tangible items that they can have, a stuffed animal in their lap, a special hat they get to wear, a special pillow they might get to sit on, different things like that. If that's something you're able to do, then utilize those things. It makes reading circle fun. It makes it enjoyable for the children. Then ask comprehension questions. You'll get to see some of this as well. Sometimes it's easy as teachers, and I know I've fallen into this trap as well. You get the reading done, you move on, and you just keep going. You finish the page, you flip to the next one. But the purpose of reading is to comprehend it, to understand what is going on in that story. We want the children to be able to one day read the Bible. We don't want them just to read it and go completely through it and not grasp what it's saying. We want them to be able to analyze what they're reading. And that starts right away in the classroom when we first teach them how to read. So when they're reading, they're analyzing as well. That way, when you're done with that particular page, down at the curriculum, at the bottom of that teacher book, it has questions for you to ask. You can come up with your own questions if you would like, but it has questions there for you that are easy questions to ask. So ask those questions. Get the children thinking about what they are reading. That way, they are able to grasp what they're reading not only in your classroom, but as they grow, they're used to paying attention and they're not just reading the words to get through it. We want them to actually grasp what they're reading. You'll notice in these few clips that you're about to see the different levels of reading. So it will be group 1, group 2, and group 3 in my K-5 classroom. Group 1 is the elephants, group 2 are the lions, and group 3 are the zebras. So as you look over these, look through and see the different things that we just talked about. That smoothness and expression in reading, looking for that motivation, using those comprehension questions, and see the different levels of reading. That way, as you're choosing your reading circle groups this year, you can see where your students might fit in. Now, keep in mind, the children in these clips are reading towards the end of the school year, so utilize what we talked about prior to where to place those students. But as you grow through the school year, this is where those students might end up in their reading with the different groups.
All right.
All right, boys and girls, go ahead and open your reading book to page 20. Page 20. In reading positions. Ooh, Chloe is ready to go. Reading position. How do we hold our book, Oliver? Brooklyn is ready. Nico and Adam are ready. Let's get their picture taken. Yes, ma'am. All right. I am looking for careful readers today. Readers that are using good expression. Oh, that's the kind of reader I want to see this morning. So let's see who can do that. Go ahead and start us out. Chloe.
A day at the farm. Mayor.
Look at that special sound that you see in the middle. A-R says?
Air.
Oh, not air. A-R in stars.
A-R.
What does A-R say? Boys and girls, help her out.
R in stars. A-R. R.
Good job. Read it with that sound.
Mark
Yeah, good job.
and Matt. And
That's one of our sight words. It says R.
R.
Now you got every single word right. I want you to reread that sentence and see if we can make it a little bit smoother. Try it again.
Mark and Matt. When
What is that sight word again? R. Look at your book. You've got to focus. Mark and Matt are what? What is that last word?
twins.
Twins. So listen to me. Mark and Matt are twins. Read it like me.
Mark and Matt are twins.
Much better. Thank you, Chloe. Go ahead, Brooklyn, and continue.
They
Look at that sight word.
the twins like to go to their farm.
Look at how many vowels are in that word. That's the same special sound Chloe had a minute ago. AR says what? So use that sound. Good. Chef barks to greet them. Add some expression. Much better, thank you. Brooklyn, rest your books. Where do the twins like to go, Lily? To Granddad's farm. You were paying attention. Who is Chef? Raylene? Yeah, Granddad's dog. That's right. Turn your book over. And reading positions. Remember, when your friend is reading out loud, you are reading it inside your brain, not with your words. Oliver, stand up and read for me. Reading position taken.
Look and tap. Matt. Look and Matt. Hope in the barn. The dogs.
Jobs. You got it. What's that sight word?
Are
Good, you remembered.
not
Reading
heard.
position. Oh, look at that special song. AR says. That one's a tricky one. R, so
Are
hard. Good. So the jobs are not hard.
the jobs are not hard.
Thank you, Oliver. Raylene, continue.
Matt feeds the chicks. Mark picks up the eggs.
Very good. I like that smoothness at the end, Raylene. Very nice. Rest your books. What jobs do Mark and Matt do? Adam, tell me something they do. They do. They pick up eggs. What's something else that they do, Brantley?
They fed the chickens.
They did. They fed the chicks. That's right. Go ahead and close your books. You did a great job today. And I have a special note for a friend. Hold on to your book. This note says, out of this world. And I have a friend who kept her book in reading position, who worked hard and did her best. Lily, come see me. Great job. She got out of this world reading today. All right. Go ahead and stage it. Go ahead and make sure your books are all the way up in reading position. Good job. Adrian, start us out.
The bird nest. The bird sits on her nest.
Try that again. Look at that special sound at the beginning. There's two special sounds in that word. What does SH say?
She
Good.
has made it out of wood. Three blue eggs lie in the nest. You must be still, or they will fly off.
Oh, now I heard a word that wasn't quite accurate. Look at that again and make sure you get all the words accurately. Start at we and read that sentence one more time. I like the expression though. Not they. You said we must be still or they will fly off. Try that again and get that word right. Start at we.
We must be still, or she will fly off.
Good job, and I like how you added that same expression to the end. Thank you, AJ. You may have a seat. Rest your books. Where did the bird sit? Ryla? On the nest, yes ma'am. What was the nest made of? Jet? Sticks and twigs, you're right. What was in the nest? Tell, do you remember? How many? 3. What color were the eggs, Cora?
Blue.
They were blue. You were paying such close attention. Turn your book over. Now, we have many words that we're going to read, but we're going to come back to these words at the end of our circle. So turn your page again to page number 6. All right, reading positions on page number 6. 1 page. You skipped 2 pages, just 1 page. There you go. All right, Cora, stand and read for me, darling.
I can help. Now that I am big, I can help Mom clean the car. It is a hard
Good.
job, but I will not quit.
Now, Cora, I love how you're getting all the words right, but I want you to make it a little bit smoother for me. Can you try that? So starting at, it is a hard job. Let's smooth it out a little bit.
It is a hard job.
Listen to me. This is how you sound. It is a hard job. Do you see how I paused? I want it to sound, it is a hard job.
It is a hard job.
Keep going. Make the rest of it sound like that. Nope, start it. It is a hard job. What's the next word?
Mom,
Nope, right there.
but I will not quit.
So listen to me. It is a hard job, but I will not quit. Try reading it that way.
It is a hard job, but I will not quit.
Much better. Thank you, Cora. You may have a seat. Continue for me, Ryla. Positions, buddy.
I will not
What's that psych word? D-O says? What does that sight word say? Do.
Not.
I will do. Look at the words carefully.
I will do.
Good. Look at that vowel. You got it. If it's one vowel, it says what? Ooh, I like how I have some friends in reading position. Good job, Janae.
I will do my best. I will do my best.
I love that expression. Thank you, Ryla. You may have a seat. All right, go ahead and close your books. You did a great job today. And I just looked over and saw a friend who was in reading position, had her eyes on her book, and was reading in her brain without using her words. Janae, come see me. Great. Out of this world work. Beautiful job. All right. Good job. And they're quick and ready. Riley's there. Nice work. Page 6. Oh, you skipped it. Let's go back to the front. Page 6. One more page. This way. There you go, buddy. All right, open it up. All right, reading positions. We are going to start out with River. River, come see me. All right, Ryan. Let's go ahead and start out with the title. If there's how many vowels, what does it say? In your brain, Randy. Good. Keep going. And the pen. Good. Continue.
That is
Oh, how many vowels are in that word? One. So use the sound. Lid. What's that last letter? Good job. Dad set the lid on the pan. Try it one more time. Beautiful job. Great job, River. All right, Andon, come see me. All right, Andon, we're starting with the next sentence. Go ahead for me. There. What's that last letter? Lid. Good. How many vowels?
good.
Now let's try to reread it. Good job, Andon. So proud of you. Riley, come on up. All right, Riley. How many vowels?
So what does it say? If there's one vowel, it says, oh, two vowels says, one vowel says, look at my chart. Look at behind you. One vowel says, good job. So what does that say? Good. Try that again. What's that word? What's that first letter say? The back comes first, so it's a. Fun, good. So try the whole sentence again and in reading position. Beautiful job, Riley. Thank you, sweet girl. All right, Caleb, come on up. Stand over here. What does this say? What's that sight one? Okay. Good. So put it together. Oliver, good. No. So good. Oh, you did it. What's this say? But, bun, what's that last letter? Buns. Say it again. Buns. Good job, Kayla. Great work. All right, close your books. And my special award today goes to Caleb. He worked so hard and kept his eyes on his book in reading position. Nice job. Oh, not yet. All right, boys and girls, you may stand.
Now that you've seen those different clips, there's a few different tips for reading circles that we want to talk through. One of the first things is that group 3, that lowest group. You want them to review their vowels. You can make it a daily practice, especially at the beginning. Now, as you move on, you may not need to do it daily. Most of the students are going to grasp that throughout the school year. So towards the end of the year, you may only need to do it a few times a week, especially when reading circles are a daily concept and a daily thing. But at the beginning, review those vowels daily. Go over them, recognition, sound, whatever you need to do, and add in the consonants if needed, but it's specifically the vowels. If they don't have the vowels, they're not going to be able to read any of the other words, even if they know some of the consonants. So use that review daily. Stickers and stamps to show praise. We talked about that with rewarding and motivating, but using those stickers throughout the reading circle, use stamps on their books, use that motivation for them. Praise them when they do it well. Praise them even if it's not as well as you want them to do it, or you know that they can. Praise them when you see that little bit of motivation or that little bit of trying that they're doing. Maybe they're just having a rough day and you're saying, well, that's not the best that that particular child can do. We all have rough days, so encourage them even in those rough days when they might be struggling to do their very best. Encourage them and give them that extra motivation and praise that they need. That way, the next day, they will work even harder for you in that circle. Use themed motivation. So you can see in those clips that I had a theme up. I use a classroom theme, but then I tie that into my reading circle theme. You could simply have just a reading circle theme. You can have it by day, you can have it by week, whatever is easiest for you. Use that theme and work with it. Make it exciting. Make them want to do what you have them doing. Then have a child visit different groups if you're uncertain. So when you're placing them in these groups, you're uncertain where they go. Should they go in group 1? Sometimes they read those words, but they don't always read the words individually and on their own. They sometimes have to sound them out. Put them in the different groups. Have them visit group 1 on one day. Then the next have them go with group 2 and see which is the best fit for that child. If you're still uncertain after having them visit, start them out in the lower group. They can always move up. Just because a child is in one group does not mean that's where they're going to stay all year long, for sure. Now, many of them do, but they don't have to. If they improve by you working with them, by mom and dad working with them at home, move them up if they need to move up. That is perfectly fine to do so. And then as you're going throughout the school year, if you have a student that all of a sudden they were in group 2, but the level of reading book group 2 is in at this point, they just can't handle it right now. It's moving a bit too fast for them. Move them back to the previous group. Don't make it a huge deal. Don't make them feel bad for it. Make it an exciting thing. You're going to help these friends out because obviously that student is probably going to be at a higher level than the rest of the group 3 students. So they can help them and encourage them to want to read at a higher level. So you get to tell them maybe they get to be a friend and help their friends in this class and in this group. But you can move them around and have them visit the different groups if they need to. And most and foremost, be prepared. You can't enjoy circle, your students can't enjoy reading circle if you are not prepared. So have those lesson plans ready, have your motivation planned out. Don't run around trying to figure it out as soon as you get to reading circle. Oh no, I don't have anything to motivate. Let me see what I can pull out. Now you may have days that happens, and that's okay. We all have those days. I have those days myself. But plan and be prepared so that the children can get the most out of that reading circle that they possibly can. I truly hope this information has been helpful to you, and I hope you're able to utilize it in your classroom this year. I've enjoyed spending time with you today.